So yeah, there's a question from someone who's asked me privately. Hi, Babatunde, how do we communicate some vulnerabilities, showing that we overcome challenges while still selling ourselves strongly? How do we strike the balance to demonstrate that we can add flavor to the class?
So that's it. So there are some things that are very, I mean, I'm speaking to a lot of Africans here, so it's easier for me to like say this, right? People here talk about showing your vulnerabilities, showing the things that you're not as good as. Everyone is expected to have vulnerabilities, right? So that is fine. But I feel like people are going to respect you more for your strengths because they already know that vulnerabilities are a given. And vulnerabilities are not things you are going to show. Okay, let me put it this way. If I'm meeting you for the first time or I want to employ you, or we're meeting for an interview, I expect you to be telling me about the things that you're really strong at, not the things, you don't come and say stuff like, yeah, so, well, you know that sometimes I don't like to work. After 6 o'clock, my break short, that I can't do any work again. I'm going to be like, eh. There are a lot of people who are like that, but you can't tell me that on the first day, right? So I think that for your application, except someone is asking you for vulnerabilities, if nobody's asking you for vulnerabilities, I beg, just focus on your strength and behave like you don't have vulnerabilities. But that said, it doesn't mean you should go and just sound very like you're bragging all along and looks like you're perfect. No one expects you to be perfect. But if they don't ask you for that kind of thing, I don't think you should communicate it. It's not a plus. And you also don't want people to, because when you are not there to explain certain things, something you are putting in your application that you're not there to say, no, this is what I mean. No, you have to be very careful what you put in because you're not there to defend it, right? And they might not call you. So I would say, if they don't ask, don't tell. Yeah, that's just what it is.
Thank you for that. So Emmanuel was saying, I know the answer to this question, but I'll just put it out there. Someone is saying, can I share my personal statement for review and advice with the host? I'll just like to say a sentence about it because we cannot kill the host. I can imagine how many requests you get every time, but just say something about that. Let me know what you think.
I feel like it might be something that Lane might offer. There's someone here actually, I know maybe you guys can, her name is Yewande. I might, because some people also specialize in things like this, and it's Yewande's work. She's in the US, so she might be someone that I might introduce to you, or because reviewing the essay is like a lot of work.
It's a journey.
It's a journey, and people sometimes underestimate the work that goes into it, right? So what I would say is, it's not something that I'm very good at it, but not something that I really enjoy doing. And if I'm going to review somebody's essay, I'm going to like charge a lot of money, right? And that's not good. That's something I want to do for you. Yeah. So what I would say is two things. Lane can have like an institutional way of helping people do that. Do you get?
Yeah.
But I think we should also be clear around the fact that this is value. It is value. If you want to do that for people, get them to pay so that they will not be sending you 15 drafts every time that they have a new thought. It's something that I do for Edubridge people, which I'm extremely proud of, because I know, the reason why I do it is I know that person. So I see Made here, right? I know she's in Lane. If she comes in with an essay that I don't like, I'm like, what's wrong with you? I know you, this is not you. Go back and write it because I know them. If I don't know someone, it's a lot harder for me to review that essay because there's no personal conversation. And they're not going to pay me enough for me to know them in that time for them for me to do it. So I'll say Lynn can do it. And Yewande is on this call. I can facilitate that link. She has an institutional framework for reviewing essays. I think that might be a better way to go about it.
Quite all right. We're actually working on something, but Yewande can also be a good resource with respect to that. Towards the end, we'll give you time to link us up with that. The other question is, can a second-class lower graduate who is a CFA level 3 get into an MBA program? That question is not complete, but I'm guessing that's what the person wanted to ask. Someone also said, Ava has spoken about giving students the opportunity to defer. Do you think this is going to affect the available spots for the next cohort?
Yes, it would. So 2 questions.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to go back to, I think I can see the full question. It's from Solomon. Okay. Can a second-class lower graduate who is a CFA level 3 candidate has a GMAT of 695 and plus 1 experience in investment management, have a shot at Chicago Boots or Watson. I think the reason why I'm taking this question is so that people can know profiles and know how they play a big role in the kind of schools you apply to.
Yeah. So I'll take that question. Yes, you can. So, I mean, don't let anybody tell you you can't do anything in this world, right? So first, you can. Now, people are in, it now means that certain things make it a bit harder for other people. So first, your undergrad grade is a big driver of university MBA applications. You know, when in Nigeria, people say that thing about, they're always talking about first class. People have been saying first class is too good. Or people talk about first class too much. They have a much bigger reliance on grade in the US than Nigeria. If you complain that people focus on grades in Nigeria, then you've not been to the US. Grade is almost everything. Like what quality of school did you go to? What grade did you have? It matters a lot, right? Especially for the top programs. And the reason why it does is the top programs get very big applications. They get very good applications. So it'll be harder for them to drop someone who went to a school in the US that they know and has a first class, or even in your country that has a first class, has the same thing that you have. For you, there has to be something that you have that you don't have. I don't know if you get my point, right? So for these schools that you're applying to, the competition is very, very, very stiff. That said, I like the fact that you mentioned that you have CFA level 3. It means that you have something that compensates for what you think you don't have. I know there's supposed to be a question around the way you think about your application. Maybe I should just run through it now.
Yes,
now that someone has asked, right?
Yes.
I sort of see the way schools review applications. I sort of see it in 5 different buckets. So if you have a note, you can just start writing. This is the part where I start teaching. So you can just take your pen and start writing, right? The first part is the academics, right? The academics are extremely important. Why? Because it is a graduate degree that you're getting. You're getting a degree in business, a master's degree in business. I didn't understand some of these things. Why are they making us write GMAT? After some of the business analytics courses that I've done, when they want to kill me with too much math and we entry engineering or we entry in physics every time, I'm like, okay, I see why they're forcing us, right, to do a lot of math. They want to see that you can cope with the academics, because the academics is no joke, right? So your undergrad GPA lets them know how good you are they don't know the quality of school you went to, and they can't guess if you're coming from a developing country, right? But sometimes schools will ask people. So they ask me sometimes, see, Babatunde, somebody's coming from Babcock University in Nigeria. How good is Babcock? I'm like, Babcock is a good school. So they have a first class from Babcock or 2-1. I'm like, oh, that's a good grade. But the other schools that they will tell me, this person is from which school? I'm like, which school? I don't know the school. I don't even know if they do jam inside that school again. It affects how they look at that person. So your academics matter a lot. And for academics, they think of your undergrad GPA, where you had a bit of time. But they focus a lot on GMAT, right? Because GMAT is a leveler. It's a standardized score. All of us take it. They can compare it with people in your region and see your intellectual ability. Then you can now start thinking around things like, you might not start thinking about things like, do I have things like professional exam, or do I have quant work experience to show that I can go to business school? For example, if you work and you've done a bit of maybe financial modeling, or you've done valuation, or you work in supply chain and you run a lot of numbers, or you have experience in data analytics, you can use that to say, maybe my undergrad wasn't as good, but see what else I've done. So CFA works for you. But that said, the more prestigious the program you're applying to, the more they expect those two to be high. My class has people that has 780, 770 in GMAT. I'm always looking at them. I'm like, what's wrong with these people? It's just like really hard now, because you know how difficult GMAT is. And you know why they got it. Because in class, they understand everything quickly. When you are still saying, hey, don't let me disgrace Nigeria, or let me quickly understand this thing, before they go and call my name and see that I don't know it. Somebody's already asking like 3 or 4 different levels of that. Brain power is there. So you have to make sure that you show it. So if your undergrad is 2.2, my first advice there is, can you push your GMAT score higher? 695 is good. It's good. I'm not going to deny that. But can you push 700 and something, so that you can say, maybe my undergrad wasn't as good. And don't forget, they also don't know your school as much. But this is what I did with a standardized exam that you know is extremely difficult, right? So that gives you a bigger leverage, because one thing I said at the beginning that I have a focus on scholarship. It's not that so there are two questions. They can take you, but would they give you scholarship, which is the most important thing for me? The dollar is too much.
You know what? Since you've already touched on that, let's go into funding. I think that's a very good point that you've raised. And the question around that is, what are some of the myths that you've seen people have about funding that we need to break down? And the second thing is what you're already answering is, how does your application determine what kind of funding you get? How do you even identify what kind of funding the school provides? And which one should you go for?
Sorry, what's the first question? I couldn't quite get that first question.
So the first question is, what are some of the myths around funding?
Okay, myths around funding, right? So the first thing so there are three ways you can get, two broad ways that you can get funding, right? You can either get funding from scholarship from the school, or you can get private funds, right? So private funds will now be divided into two. You could have either loans that you want to go and get yourself, or the money that you saved or your parents are paying. Yeah, I know I was talking about, Daisy, I saw it, the 5 things. I decided to keep it. I'm going to talk about it under applications that can get you scholarship. So I noted it. Thank you for bringing it back on. So scholarship is one big way. You can get your private funds through money that you borrow and through money that you have yourself, you saved. But if you are coming from Nigeria, your parents are not extremely wealthy, I'm sorry, the dollar to naira is just too much. The money is like a lot, right? Even Americans don't pay, they sort of borrow. So why should you try to pay? So what I try to tell people is optimize for scholarship. Try to get as much scholarship as you can because the funds are available. And the bigger the school, the more funds that they have. Sometimes the mid schools don't have a lot of top application. So someone can decide and say, I'm a top candidate. I know that I'm actually pretty strong. So what I may do is, because I don't want to pay anything, I will not go to a top school. I'll go to a mid-level school because I'll be so special there that they'll give me 100% scholarship. That's another strategy that you might use. So someone was telling me that you can't optimize for scholarship and top school at the same time. If you want to come to top, again, US, right? Even Europe, INSEAD and LBS, ISA and IMD. So those are top programs. Then if you want to come to the US, Harvard, Wharton, Stanford, Kellogg, MIT Sloan, Yale, Berkeley, Chicago both, Wharton. If you want to go to those schools, the fact that they're giving you admission first is achievement. You can also say that they'll give you scholarship. It's hard enough to get in. So scholarship is harder in that place. But you can go to a top 25 school, top 20 school, top 45 school that would give you top 80. From an employment standpoint, top 80, maybe not, maybe top 20 to top 50. Those ones are not as big. So you'll be more special to them and they might try to give you scholarship. So those are the strategies that I would say you might want to think about. If you're optimizing for top school, I was a bit lucky. I optimized for a top school because I probably don't leave Nigeria if I didn't get a top 5 school. And that's how I think about it, right? But I also got a very big scholarship from that top 5 program. But trying to get into that program alone is hard enough. So is that what you want? So from that scholarship now, so if you know that I have to get either scholarship, I can get loans, Prodigy Finance is there. I think there are 3 from Nigeria that can give you loans. COVID is going to affect the ability to get funding. I think COVID is going to be COVID is going to affect MBA funding because COVID affects post-MBA employment. And if post-MBA employment has a question mark, people may not want to fund because they don't know if you're going to get jobs. There were all these things around immigration, US, OPT, visa, and things. It just sort of affects if you're trying to come to the US. Canada, maybe yes. Europe, to some extent. So you have to think through. But I feel optimize for scholarship. Try as much as possible to get scholarship. Now, you now focus on, if I don't get as much scholarship as I want, I might now say I want to get maybe I'll borrow from a financier. I feel like a good strategy for you. And that's where those things that I said about looking at yourself, post-MBA, what qualities do I have? Where do I stand relative to these schools? What's my GMAT score? What it does for you is helps you say, if I want to get into this school, if I have 650 and I want to get into Kellogg, it's somehow, right? Or I want to get into a top program, it's harder. So I should go and recalibrate my dream, right? And apply to this school. I know that they may not give me scholarship, but I'm not going to pick Ohio State or, I don't want to mention names so that I don't look like I'm denigrating people's programs, but go and look at schools that are further down the line and say, these ones, when they see me, they'll be happy. I met one of one Nigerian at one interview. So I'm doing internship this June. And so we have to do like interviews. So I met someone when I traveled to LA, and he's a Nigerian. He went to a school that they give him 90% or almost 100% scholarship. The school itself is not ranked. But he got a good job, and he does not have MBA loan. That is a good place to be because he got a top job. That is a strategy. So what you know is that you may not be proud of the name of your school, but whose school name help. So you might think of all of these things and say, what am I comfortable with? So that is one strategy for you. Now, what applications can help you get that scholarship, right? So I've said the first thing. I know someone asked me, what's that 2, 3, 4, 5, right? The first one is academics. If you have undergrad first class, you are very lucky. If you don't have it, not too bad. Emphasize that you are still one of the top 2 in your department and nobody got first class in the last 50 years. I don't know, nobody knows. If you have professional exams, good. But GMAT or GRE might be the best place for you to show that you are extremely good, or your work experience where you've worked on quants or things that will let them know that you're actually top quality. But please optimize for that score. If you want a scholarship, I was speaking to my friend in Wharton and we're like, if we had just gone back to go and do that GMAT one more time, I'll try to get 750. Just shut up my phone, and because it just means I'm going to get a bigger scholarship, right? So GMAT and GRE, they're very important. Don't do it like I want to pass, this exam is too hard. Do it like I want to get top 90 percentile. Is extremely important. Then second thing I'm going to talk about would be your work experience. MBA is, part of the value of the MBA is that you are going to be contributing your work experience every time in class. So in 1 or 2 of my classes, my professor has called me to discuss working in Africa. I've led a session of working in Africa. I've led a session of how we started Edubridge and how we set up the operation system. You are going to bring your unique work experience to school. So they need you to have work experience. But you don't need it to just have work experience where you come in and just have work experience that is just work experience. It has to be credible so that you can contribute to conversations. Then you must show progress, right? Because you are top talent, don't forget what I said at the beginning. You are signaling that you are the best. So it is good for you to have credible companies that they trust. And that is both good and bad, right? You are coming from Nigeria. People in Nigeria usually like to think that Nigeria is a popular country. Once you get to the US, you just find out that nobody knows about Nigeria. They only know about Africa. So you are coming from nowhere, sorry to say that, and they don't know where you've worked. So they might trust global brands on your CV because they know the global brands because they're in the US or they're in Europe or they're in Asia. So if you have a global brand on your resume, fine. If you don't, it is your job to let them know how important that company is. I'll give you an example. I worked at PwC, right? People like to talk about PwC that I worked. My best work experience was AfroInvest. When I was writing my application, I let them know that I worked at AfroInvest. And I said, AfroInvest is Nigeria's Merrill Lynch. Merrill Lynch was known for the most creative financing deals. So anybody reading my application knew that, I don't know the name of this AfroInvest or what did they call it, but it is Nigeria's Merrill Lynch because they did the first GDR transaction in Nigeria. So I framed it for them and it was very, very clear. So for work experience, make sure it is with a global brand or you let them know how important the company is. Make sure you show them the progress. You were getting promoted, your tasks were getting more complex. Before, you were not managing anybody, but by the time you left, you were managing 7 people, right? Your deals were getting more complex. You're managing people. You are moving a bit more towards management. So go back to your CV and make sure that you show that trajectory. Your income was increasing. Your responsibilities were increasing. So you must show important transactions. When I say transaction, I mean work experience, right? So that is the thing about work experience. The third thing is community involvement, what we call extracurricular activities. How connected are you in your community? The basic hypothesis here is the leaders, people that want to change the world or want to change an organization, they don't go to the office and come, just go to work and go home. They must be so restless that they are working in Toastmasters or they're setting up lane or they are feeding people in Bariga. I'm just using examples that come to mind, right? Or they have a pet business or they sell jewelry or they sell shoes. You must have something that you engage your community with. And why schools think about this is, another reason why they think about it is, you're going to be in their community. Are you just going to come there and come here studying books? If you want to change the world, then you must have both. I keep saying changing the world, right? If you want to affect, if you're going to be like a global talent, right? You must have ability to affect people in your work environment. You must also have ability to affect the community that you work. Now that said, the way we think of extracurricular activities in Africa is totally different from how they think about it in Europe or US or developed countries. You can be organizing cookouts. Maybe you like cooking. Cooking is enough. Oh. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't be cooking. You can say once a week, you teach people how to cook on YouTube, because cooking is a way this connected to your identity. They say a lot of rubbish in this place that I'm like, how is cooking connected to identity? The idea here is, how are you framing it? How are you framing how you work with your community? So it's extremely important. And the fourth one, right, is personal profile. Because schools use you as marketing, they are always looking for the people that have the best personal achievements. Never underestimate all the personal things you've done. If you've won ICANN prize before, or you've been maybe president of an association, or you founded something, please use it. The person reading your application might like you because I like this person. This person started so in their country. And that is how you've left a brand in their mind. So look for all the achievements you've had and look for good ways to frame that achievement. One thing we are not good with as much coming from home is we don't know how to situate all the achievements that we have, all the things that people hype you for, right? We don't know how to situate it in a way that somebody will hear it and say, wow, you did this. You must be able to couch it or present it in a way that somebody says, oh, that makes a lot of sense. I'm just surprised that you're able to do this. I'll give you one example. I was telling, when I came in here, and people put so much like value on things like traveling, because you meet someone and the person says something like, I've been to 56 countries, and you're like, what? 56? I've not even passed after Nigeria. I said, where have I even been to? But one thing I framed with the person was, so I like traveling, but I like it from a sociology perspective. So when I go to a city, I go to the place, I go to the ghettos, I go to the place, and they were like, wow, tell me about it. And the person was taking me around that this guy is so interesting. You know, I've gone to these countries, but I've never done this. They were more, I know that I've not traveled as much, but I made the most of the few trips. And what did I do? I went to Kaduna, I went to Katsina, I went to all these places, and I actually I do that, right? I go to the parts of the country and I go to speak to people. People think it's weird, but I go to like the terrible places, the good places, go to speak to people, take pictures, sort of understand how people think in those places. And it sort of counts. And why I'm bringing this up is some of the smaller things, the way we think of things, because of where we're coming from, we like the big things of, I created this thing, people were able to get food, it's fine. But the smaller things that you do that don't seem to have meaning, if you can find a way to attach meaning to it in a way that it makes sense and it fits into your story, please share it. Your personal achievements matter a lot. They matter like a whole lot. Then the final one is fit with the school. How are you and the school? How are you a fit? Schools have like a brand. They have like a type of person that they're looking for. And if you are not that type of person, they sort of would figure it out. So when somebody's reading your application, they must be like, this person is our school. I've not seen this person, but this person sounds like somebody that I want to drink beer with, right? So you have to research the school very well. Know the kind of person that they admit, know the personality of the school, know the culture of the school, right? Know the things that the school values so much. Kellogg values culture and collaboration. In fact, if you say enough in too many times in your interview, culture, collaboration, I love the culture made sense to me, I collaborated, you probably get a Kellogg admission. They are very big on community. Other schools are big on other things, right? So if you find a way of understanding what the culture of a school is, you can tailor your story to the fit of that school, and the school will like you. And what are we trying to achieve? We're trying to make sure that out of the 5 ways that they'll probably look at you, you are going to make sure that you click 5 out of the 5 or 4 out of the 5. What that does is, the more you check the box for them, the more they want to keep you in the class. And once a school is desperate to get you into their program, they are going to offer you scholarship. That's the way it works. If I want this person well enough, then I'm going to tell them, see, I'm going to admit you, but I'm not just going to admit you. I want you to make sure that this is top of mind to you because we really like you. We're going to say that we're going to offer you this kind of scholarship. And when they offer you type of scholarship, you'll be like, oh, I like you, good, that, but I have other options. Now, this is the last thing I'm going to say on that scholarships. And this is something I think I didn't do well as much. Make sure you apply to other schools and get admitted to the other schools. When schools know that you have another option, they are going to increase the scholarship. They're going to call you that you have another option. You say, yes, I got admission in this school, this school, this school. They'll be like, wow. And you say, I really love your school, but where I am right now, my economic circumstances, I can't pay like a lot of fees. So while your school is number one for me, I might find that because of money, I might go to this other school. They'll say, okay, don't worry, I'll come back to you. And they'll come back with like a better offer. And I have an example for this. A friend of mine just got into a school. He got 75%, which was very good. Then he was very happy. He came to tell me, and I was like, 75%? Okay. Go back and ask them for 100%. He was like, no, Tunde, your wallet is too much. Somebody that gave me 75%, I did not ask. Guy, go back. That's the way they speak English in this place. Go back. Tell them, I really appreciate this 75%. It is unprecedented. I love it. It makes me even love this school more. However, this is my circumstances. I am in this country. I have done this. A critical element of my decision making is that I must be able to, I don't want to have post-college debt. So I have these other schools. I don't like them as much as I like your school, but I don't want a situation where money will be the reason why I don't come to your school. This is part of my program. I've told all my friends, my family members call me this, that. Boo-boo then. Sorry I said boo-boo, right? But to it. Then they came back and said, okay, so we're giving you 100%. And the guy did not believe that he could get 100%. He was just on the call. He wanted to jump up. But of course, I have to just echo, oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm very excited. After the call, the guy jumped up. But that's how it works. So prepare a compelling application around what I've said. Check all the boxes. It might be really difficult, but think hard. So spend a bit of time checking all the boxes and make sure that you covered everything. Then have outside options. Let them know that you are good, so good that if they don't take you, other people might. And if they want you enough, they're going to be willing to offer that. So sorry it took a while, but yeah, that's it. Sam?
That's a big lecture, right? And I enjoyed listening to you as well. We have a lot of questions for you here. I think I'll start with, you already talked about negotiating offer for full funding, so you answered that question already. So Shakirat is asking, on work experience, how much is enough?
Okay, so I'm going to do some nepotism. Is this the Shakira that I know? Shakira and Fuloshi. So I'm hailing you, right? Then I'll ask her. Yes, she's super analyst, she knows. So how much work experience is enough? Because I know Shakira, I can answer a question directly. So what I find is international students are they are older than American students here. If you have finished NYSC before you start thinking of MBA, I am here to tell you that you are late. If you are, the only person that is not late here is someone that is still doing NYSC. If you have finished NYSC and you're asking me, you're late, right? It looks like we're going to have like 10 minutes remaining, but that's fine.
Yes, exactly. So I mean, that's 10 minutes remaining. This is supposed to end by 9:30. Again, we can log in with the same link to take as many questions as much as possible.
Okay, my people are here, so I'm willing to answer that question. So yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, if you finished NYSC, if you completed the NYSC program, and you're asking, then you're late. Why? So this is the MBA model. The way MBA works is the industry that employs the most from MBA is consulting, McKinsey, Bain, BCG, and all the other companies. And the way they do it is you come into McKinsey or you come into Bain, you do 2 years and you go to business school, then you come back, right? Investment banking also has this model where you get into JP Morgan or you get into Goldman Sachs. You do 2 years as an analyst, you go to business school and you come back. So what that means is typically the guy that is in the MBA class should basically be 24, 25. In fact, most of the Americans are 25. It is the international that are 31, 39. No, of course, 39 is a bit higher now. But the point is, the internationals are 29. They're actually a bit older because in their country, they first second guess themselves, especially if you're a Nigerian. ASU will delay your life. Then federal government will take your life and take you to one place and you do NYSC. Then you now start looking for work. Of course, between university and NYSC, they would have taken 6 months of your life again, right? Your mates, by the time you're done with NYSC, your mates abroad are actually going to business school. So, what experience is enough? Including your NYSC, by the time you've worked 1 or 2 years, if you've done 1 year, if you have currently worked 1 year or maybe 2 years, I would say start applying now. Why? Because GMAT will take another 6 months if you want to do well in it. So if you have target to have 2 years, 3 years, you should start applying. If you are there. Why I said 2 years is because a lot of my classmates have 2 years of work experience. They worked only 2 years. Meanwhile, other people have 8 years. There's a spectrum, right? It's a spectrum. When I say spectrum, people have from 2 years. Some schools will admit you with 0 years of experience. Stanford does that, but most of the other schools need to have work experience. So I'll say 2 years and above is like the best. So wherever you are right now in your work, I'll say start trying to apply because GMAT will take its own time. So it may not be optimal to say, I want to go next year and I'll start applying now, except you've started doing GMAT for a very long time. I think MBA applications also need a bit of, you have to change your mindset of how you think about things. You have to incorporate it into you have to put it into your life, with your work and everything. It's a bit harder. So give it a bit of time. I'll say now, Shakira, right? You have to come here. Yeah.
Babatunde, I need to reiterate what you've said about giving it some time before you apply, because trust me, based on my experience and the experience of a lot of people, you think that, oh, no problem, by this time I'll go to business school, I'll just wake up one morning and then I'll apply and I'll get it. Oh, it will shock you. Sometimes you'd even get the admission, but you won't get the funding. And you can be so teary-eyed that you say, oh, no, how much is 70K? Wait till you get the admission and you now need to pay for that money. That's when the reality dawns on you that you're dealing with 10-digit millions of naira to get to business school. So it's very important. I know some of the guests we had, one question we asked them is, before you got into your MBA program, between when you started to think of your MBA and when you traveled, how many years? And we get 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. I'm going to throw that question to you as well. So between when you started thinking about your MBA and when you got in, how long was it?
Wow, that's a hard question for me to answer, right? Because I had to take a break. So think about it. When I got into investment banking, again, I think industries can help. In investment banking and consulting, MBA is a thing, right? So I knew people, and I started, right from my NYC, I started attending Harvard, Kellogg, and all of those events. Then I think I got a bit distracted because of Edubridge, right? So at some point I felt, okay, while I'm doing banking, I felt that my future was entrepreneurship, which might still be, right? Or it is. So I just felt, maybe I don't need this MBA anymore because I actually started a business and I want to make it grow. After a period of time, I found out that I actually maybe need this MBA. So that time took maybe 7 years. But between the time I now said, I'm going to get this MBA, and I actually got it. I had 2 admission cycles. I wanted to apply to get in 2018, so that I would leave class of 2020. But I decided right into the application process. GMAT took time. Guys, applying for top, especially the program is tough. It takes a lot of time. Because your life is not on a standstill, chances are that if you're applying for a top program, you have a top job. Your job expects you to deliver. So your job takes a big chunk of your life, right? Then you have relationships, other things that you're doing. If you're not intentional, that's another word I've heard in this space. If you're not intentional that I really want to go to this school, you probably might not go. I decided I was going to, so I took GMAT in November or December 2017. And I said, oh, this exam wasn't as good as I wanted, but I'll take another one. I'll take it in the next 6 months. The next time I remembered to take it was end of July, 7 months. Because your life is not standstill. So I have to get to a place in my life where I said, no, this thing is so, so important among the things that I wanted to do. And I had to deprioritize other things, right? In fact, for the Edubridge people, I had to even put Edubridge down. Edubridge, I love you people. But see, this is my life. This is what I always wanted to do. And I had to rank MBA up such that outside of work, it now became pressing. And maybe I should also sound this thing out to everybody. The things that you want to do in life, I've learned this lesson the hard way. Anything that you aspire to do in your life, if it does not get into your daily calendar, you're joking. If you want to do business school, if you don't find time every day to practice for your exam, if you say, I'm going to do it weekend, I beg, 5 years, you might still be on it. So if this is what you want to do, then you have to get your calendar and say, I'm going to block out 2-3 hours every day and work on my application, work on my exam. That is when you're not going to start making progress, because difficult things are hard to do. And the more, if you work in industries like investment banking, consulting, law, where you have overnight work, your work will take a central part of your time. and it may be extremely difficult for you to recalibrate. So it took me like 2 years to get into school. I mean, but the luck I have is that I applied only once. And what I had was that all my life I'd actually been preparing. I had a strong application. I had very good personal achievements. A lot of things checked out in my life, right? So also live your life in a way that you are writing the story little by little, without you knowing. So have a very big, I have a very big achievement focus. Like I always like, let's achieve. I always just achievement, right? So it's also a very expensive way to live because it burns you out. But have that mindset so that the day you need to call on stories for your application, there'll be too many stories for you to tell. It makes you a much better candidate for even some of the things from the schools we mentioned and for the scholarships that you also said. Yeah.
Babatunde, I want to say that point you made is very important because it influences everything you do, the work you do, how you see your role. When you start to think about the achievements, you will forget your salary. You forget that you're not paid well because what you're more concerned about is how can I achieve and how can I measure it? And one of the webinars we had the last time, we talked about some of the things you need to take out of your program, including the details, the numbers, the recommenders. I knew who my recommenders were going to be before I joined the company I joined. So things like that, it's very important for you to start writing your story now, especially with recommendation. You need to start priming those recommenders now. It's not 2 months to application that you say this person will write a letter of recommendation. You need to be intentional with your relationship with that person so that when it comes to that point, the person can say, you know what, stop disturbing me, take the password to my email and follow up and all that. And that's the truth because that's the way people can be. Sometimes they get so busy with the application, with their own life that for them to open their email and answer questions, I know someone that had to take their laptop and say, just bring your laptop, sit beside me, write your story, I will review it. And that was how I got his letter of recommendation.